Awesome. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. It's around about lunchtime here in far north Queensland. Paul and I are in Cairns, which is the land of the Arrogante people. So welcome to you wherever you're joining us from in Australia, overseas, and whatever land or sea country you're joining from as well. And also if you're joining us later online. I'm really pleased to see so many people here today. There's a couple of things that I'm really excited about sharing. And so I want to run through a couple of different things. We've also got some questions for you to answer, if you don't mind, a couple of little surveys. And by all means, please use the chat if you've got any questions or anything else that you'd like to add. I'm really happy to make this as interactive as possible on our lunch break or breakfast break in Thailand, or maybe after dinner evening thing for those over in the US and Canada as well. Awesome. So wherever you're at, hope you're comfortable. Feel free to interact with us as we go. Paul's got a couple of questions there, so he's just going to pop up a quick poll for us there. So the first one was, we're really interested to know just a little bit about your mapping experience. So if you just give us a bit of an idea, if you're brand new to drone mapping, you're at zero, or if you've been doing it for years, you're fully confident, hit us with a 5. And it sort of helps me make sure that I'm using the right language as I'm talking with everybody today as well.
All right, cool. I'm just going to end that one, Karen, and then I'll bring up the other one.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So poll number 2 coming. And yes, just a question as we go about getting the recording later. Yes, absolutely. It will go out some stage later this week. And so question number 2, do you currently have any drone mapping data that you either are processing or that you need processing as well? So you either have some now, you might have some in the future, or you're not at all. Just let us know where you're at. So just also by way of introduction, so Paul and I are the co-founders of GeoNadir, and also you'll see Joan online as well. She's our Earth observation data scientist, and we're all based in far north Queensland. So Paul, you've got those survey results?
I have. So 80% of people have either got some drone data now or will have in the future. And we've got a real mix of people, but I would say that the majority of people on the webinar today are sort of newbies to just getting started with drone mapping. We have got about 4 people who are pretty comfortable with it, but I'd say that the majority of people on here today are newbies to just getting started.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks so much, and thanks to everyone for participating in that. As I go through the next couple of things, as I mentioned before, please feel free to use the chat to type anything in. And we're not a huge group, so if you really want, just come off mute and say something if you need to, or give us a wave with through the video as well. I can see those of you who have your videos turned on. Just a reminder that we are recording those, so just up to you as in terms of what you want to share. All right, so let's jump right into it. So our mission at GeoNadir is to make drone mapping even better. So what do I actually mean by that? Well, we actually think that drone mapping and Earth observation as a whole is pretty damn good, but we want to make it even better. So that's really our standpoint, is thinking about everything that we do in terms of observing Earth from above, and in particular, how we're using drones to do that. How can we make the experience just that much better? All these little tweaks so that we can get the best information as possible as we're looking to make sure that we really take care of our planet. So that's where we come from. So with that in mind, I wanted to talk about 3 key areas at this lunchtime session. The first one is data capture, processing the data, and then collaborating with teams. So the first one I'm just going to talk about really briefly, and going to just give some tips and tricks. And it's good to know that, so that first question around what your experience is with drone mapping, because I'm going to give some tips that may be old hand to many of you, but hopefully there's something in there for all of you to at least take away. There's a checklist of things that we've found will give you the best results when you're drone mapping. So that's where I'm going to start with the first one. Then I'm going to jump over into demo mode, and I'm going to demo some of the cool features that we've been working on and also get your feedback on those as well. So first up, our top tips for snapping drone mapping pics. So I've got 10 things to keep in mind that we find will give you the best results when we end up processing your data. So the first one, always safety. So following the safety regulations, the local protocols, licensing, all that sort of stuff goes without saying. On top of that, choose a really good mission planning app. I know some people are really, really successful with flying manually, but it's a lot harder to do, and it's not always as robust, I guess, if you like. So pick a really good drone mapping app that matches the drone that you have. So there's a couple of options up there. It really depends on if you're using Android, iOS, or the type of drone you have as well. Any challenges with that, please reach out and we can point you in the right direction as well. Most of those apps are free too. The next one is to make sure that you cover a larger area than what you actually want. So if you need an area that's 100 by 100, then cover at least 120 by 120, because our edges are never as good as the center bits. So if those edges are important to you, make sure you go big. Next one, you want at least 3 parallel lines. While we can reconstruct single lines, and I have some examples of that I can share with you later if you're interested, it's never as good and it's not always reliable. So 3 parallel lines will give you the best result, and just backwards and forwards in a lawnmower pattern, not cross grid. So cross grid will double the amount of time that you take to fly, or halve the area that you can fly in, and it actually doesn't reconstruct as well as our single pattern as well. We've figured that out after many, many, many data sets that we've processed in all different types of ecosystems as well. I often get asked, how high should I fly when I capture my data? This actually comes down to the question of, what's the smallest feature you want to identify? So have a think about, do you want to identify ants on a rock, leaves on a tree, or whatever it is that you need to identify, and then you're going to base your pixel size and your flying height off that as well. Again, if you'd like more information on that, I'm happy to send around a blog or our ebook that covers that as well. When you're just getting started out, I recommend 80% overlap and 80% side lap between your photos. So what does that mean? You take a photo, and this is covered off in those apps that you use as well. And as you're going along, you've got a really, really high amount of overlap and then side lap between your flight lens. 80% is an easy number to remember. Same front, same side. As you get more experienced, you can play with that and drop it a little bit in some ecosystems. But in general, we keep to 80-80. Always have your camera at nadir, so that's pointing directly down. Absolutely, we get the best results from when you do not have oblique photos in a data set. If there's some in there, we can work with it, but please not an entire data set of angular photos. They just really don't map quite so well. The timing matters. So if you're working in terrestrial environments, or in agricultural areas, for example, or forests, around about the middle of the day is fabulous. If you've got water anywhere where you're mapping, you want to do early morning or late afternoon. Not too early, not too late, because you still need some sunlight, but stay away from the middle of the day. There's a real Goldilocks zone there as well. You want a fast SD card, and I'd highly recommend you change your SD card between every single flight, just in case something happens, you don't lose a data set. All right, and number 10, make sure that if you are using one of the autonomous mission planning apps, that you know how to cancel it and call your drone back at any time if you need to. If there's a bird that comes in the area, or there's a helicopter, or whatever it is that you need to bring it back, battery's low, that you're able to do that. Again, if any challenges with any of those things at all, please reach out to us. I'm really happy to help you go through that journey a little bit more. All right. Any questions there that I need to attend to, Paul or Joan, before I move on to the next step? So moving from capturing into processing and then collaborate.
I think just the one from Francesco is about the target GSD and what are the most important parameters. Do you want to just explain what GSD is for everyone in the room, and how that relates back to altitude?
Yeah, sure. So the GSD is the ground sample distance. It's usually actually referred to as the pixel size of the image. Not 100% correct to call it that, but let's just run with that. Basically, the higher you fly, the larger an area you cover and the larger pixel size or the larger GSD you get, which means the less resolution you have. So fly nice and close. You just think about your eyes, right? If you want to see a lot of detail on something, you're going to get up close. If you want to see a big area, you get further away. So that's that relationship there. And I see there's a video that I think Joan's probably popped in the chat there that talks about that. There's some trigonometry involved. You don't have to do the trig if you're not into trig, because most of the planning apps will do that for you as well. But if you do like to understand a little bit more about that, that's there as well. Joan, there's also a blog on that one if you're able to just maybe find that one and pop that in the chat as well, that packs that out a little bit more. All right, is there anything else there, Paul?
Nope.
All righty, sweet. Again, just any issues at all, please feel free to reach out. I'm really happy to help in that space. Okay, so we've just gone through how you can be a little bit more effective in capturing data, which is definitely going to help you as you get to that next stage when you need to process that data. So by process, I mean you've taken all these individual overlapping photos. Now let's stick them together into an orthomosaic, and the other products that we create as well are the digital elevation models, also called digital surface model and digital terrain model. And actually, Joan, while I'm at it, maybe the blog around the DSMs and DTMs and the differences between those as well, please. Right, so what I wanted to go through first of all is some really efficient ways to upload data. That's usually the first step, right? You've flown your data, you're going to come back in to somewhere where you've got Wi-Fi, you've got your computer online, and you're going to drop your data in to process it. Now, if you've uploaded data to GeoNadir before, probably what you've done is you've come into the My Datasets area, which is where I am here. I've got my listing of datasets and all these points around Australia and some datasets in Belize as well. Well, you might have also seen the global map, which is where people are sharing their datasets for others to use as well. So all over the world, we've actually got data from 70 countries now and very, very close to 1 million images, which is something that we'll be celebrating hopefully before the end of the year that we get to that number. So you may have seen those two areas before. If you're in the global map, you can hit upload. If you're in the My Datasets area, you've got an area here to upload files, folders, or here as well. And they're all going into the same point. So everything that you upload will go into your My Datasets, which is like your Windows Explorer, I guess. What I'd like to show you today is a new way that we've got to upload, so you can still do it like this, but a new workflow that we've got that will really hopefully streamline your process into analyzing and collaborating with your data as well. So if you haven't already seen the My Projects area, I'm going to do a quick demo of uploading data into that, and then how we go about analyzing the data. And then most importantly, I think, is how we collaborate with each other around those data sets. So on the left-hand side, you'll see a range of projects that I'm working on, but let's just pretend that they're not there, and let's just go straight into creating a new project. If you don't have any projects, you'll see a spot there that will just say create a new project. It'll just be on the left-hand side. So I'm just going to go straight into here. And so what you'll see here is we now have some drawing tools, and this is really closely related to the way graphic design packages work. So we wanted to make this as simple as possible. And so not thinking about GIS. So GIS can be kind of clunky and kind of complicated. So we want to make this as simple as possible so everyone can use it, but still have the benefits of GIS in there as well. So the first thing that we want to do is to upload our drone mapping data. So we can click on this button here, we can click on this button here to do that. However, I am a huge fan of a good old drag and drop. So I've got a couple of data sets. I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that we can do this. So at the moment, I've set up a folder called data. And in that data folder, I have 3 subfolders. One's called the beach part 1, the beach part 2, and here we go. I've got another folder of data. So let's say you have a whole bunch of drone mapping photos. And so first of all, you want to just upload the photos by themselves. So I've just done a Control-A to select all my photos. As I said, I'm a big drag and drop fan. I could have gotten to this same point by clicking the upload on the button there, but I'm just going to drag and drop. I can drag and drop anywhere into the map interface there. So I pop that in. It's going to read those images. You can see through. It's coming up, so getting close to the 280 images that are in that particular folder of data set there. So that's all my images there, 280 there. And as soon as that pops up, we'll then have a look at the next stage. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. So I guess the takeaway from this is you choose how you want to do this. So the first thing that we'll see here is there's a range of optional metadata, right? So you don't have to do anything at all on this left-hand side if you don't want. Totally up to you. You can add a description, you can add tags. The drone operator is the person who's uploading unless you want to change it. This is my organization unless you want to change it. It is going to go automatically to the global map unless you want to change it. So you can easily tick that off. And you'll see that it's given my data set an automatic name that's been generated by the location and the time and date that it's been captured. So saying Trinity Beach, which was one of my local beaches, and then this was captured in 2022 on the 17th of May at 1:52 p.m. So automatically names that. You don't need to keep that. You want to change that, click on that, change it, that's all good. You want to check out your individual photos, you can click on that. You can also remove if you need to. So at this point, all you've done is drag and drop. If you're happy with that, you just click upload. That's all you need to do. And then it's going to pop in your project for you. I'm going to show you a couple of alternative ways that you might want to upload your data. So perhaps you have your data set in two separate folders. So maybe you've got the beach part 1 was your first battery, called the drone back, and then you've quickly swapped to battery and you've flown the remainder of your flight plan. So you could just grab both of those folders and you're going to drag and drop that in there. And the first thing that it asks me is, hey, are these just one flight, one data set? Or do you want to keep them separate? I've said mine's part 1, part 2, so I definitely want to merge them. So I'm going to merge into a single data set. It's going to go through that same process then. It's going to read in all of the images and pre-populate some of that automatically determined metadata for us as that pops up. And it's also going to combine those two folders together. So it calls it the beach part 1, but it now has 383 photos, which represents my first folder was 280 and my second folder was 103. So I'm happy with that. It's grabbed all of my data and it's now going to auto-mosaic those together. If I wanted to add additional data sets, I can always do that here. So let's go ahead and say, all right, let's actually say, yeah, all right, I've got another folder of data and I'm gonna drag and drop that in there as well. So it's going to go through again that same process, just reading the data set, checking what's in there, and finding some of that locational information, the information about the drone, the sensor, time and date, etc. And when that's all happy, that will pop up there. And now I see I have these two data sets that I can then go to upload. Again, I can change the name of this as I like, and I can remove anything if I want to as well. Now, the key thing here is that one of the things we've been listening to feedback is people have lots of data sets and they pretty much have this same description for a lot of the data sets that they're capturing. So I don't want to have to enter it multiple times. So with this workflow now, I could enter a single description or not, but if I decided to enter a description, it's going to apply to these data sets that I'm uploading at that time. And I could have 10, 20 data sets and it will apply to all of those data sets. They will get the same tags, description, and acknowledgements. So I don't have to go through and type it all out, which is a significant change for us and a real change in the way that workflow goes. If you then say, okay, well, actually, I want different metadata, right? So you know what? I'm happy for the beach part 1 to have this metadata, but this one, actually, I don't want that same metadata. All you're going to do is you're going to hit upload. And what we'll see down here is we can actually continue to upload and work on the platform. So this pops down. I've got uploading in progress for one data set. And you know what? I can now actually just go through and distract on me, start uploading the beach part 2. All right, so I've started uploading one data set and it's still reading. I'm still able to continue my work on the platform. I can hit upload on this next one. And when I pop this open, I'll now see that I've got multiple data sets uploading. Okay, so a couple of different ways that you can go ahead and upload your data sets there. You'll see as they're uploading, it's also starting to appear in your table of contents in your project. I'm actually going to cancel this upload because I've already done this and I've got one to show you from previous. So over here, cancel, that's stopped the upload altogether. So let's say I've gone through that process, I've uploaded my 2 data sets. I now have inside my project my 2 complete data sets that have orthomosaics, digital surface models, and digital terrain models. Okay, here's my 2 data sets looking beautiful, one from November 2020, one from January 2021. So I could start to work on these data already. But one thing I've noticed down in this bottom left-hand side is it tells me that there's 3 data sets in this area, and I've only got 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go and have a look at that 3rd data set and check out if I want to add it in. So I'm going to click over to my 3 data sets. It will take me to the repository, and I realize actually there's a data set from October in that area. So I'm going to add that to my project. So here we go. I am going to add it into my project over here, and then pop back in and view my project that I created earlier. So now I have January, November, and October, and my 3 data sets all sitting on top of each other. Now, 3 data sets, of course, you want to do some time series analysis, right? And this is a cool data set to do this on. So a little bit of a backstory. What I'm going to do first, I'm going to turn off 2 of these data sets. In October 2020, this is one of my local beaches. It was a super dry year. And I went out and I mapped this area, and you can actually see this really, really sort of dry ground and not much grass. It was all really quite bare. 1 month later, we had a fire. So let's have a look at the data set that comes up there. So you'll see this whole area now. I didn't do a very good job of making sure it overlapped exactly in terms of the area that I flew. November, I flew a larger area. You can see the edge of this hill is all burned. So if we want to look at that in a little bit more detail, we can use a transparency to do that. So you can see the difference between the 2 dates. In January, the grass had all regrown. So I'm going to turn that back on, and you'll see that area has all completely greened up. And again, I can use this tool here to look at the difference in area that was burnt versus area that's greened up. You can see the areas in some of these sandy areas where there's now grass there as well. So a really good way to just quickly visualize changes over time. So now usually the next thing that you want to do is maybe make some annotations around that. So perhaps you're interested in my case, I'm interested in the area where the mangroves have died in this area here. So where the trees kind of look a little bit gray. Maybe you're interested in solar panels or houses or swimming pools. Now that's what these tools up here are for, and they're super easy to use. So if you've ever done any digitizing in a GIS, this one is so much easier. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to digitize some of these houses. Now I've got a tool up here that lets me draw polygons, rectangles or circles. I'm going to use the polygon, but you'll also see next to all of these tools, they have a shortcut key. So for example, if you want to draw a point, you're just going to click the letter P on your keyboard, L for line, and my favorite, the Y for the polygon. So let's get in and do it. I'm going to click around, and don't mind my lack of precision as I do this, but I'll see I've finished that first polygon. It comes up here, it tells me it's 272 meters squared. I'm going to add another one, and I'm not really caring too much about the shape of this particular house. Maybe as I do it, it says now 2 polygons, etc. I can change the name of that if I like. All right. Now, if I want to do another polygon, let's say I want to map out the areas of the mangroves, all I need to do is click Y again, or click that tool again. I'm going to click Y. I'm a big fan of shortcuts, and just going to keep clicking around this area here. And I've automatically got a new polygon there. That's my dead mangroves. Or if I want to get tricky, I can use the Shift key. So if I hold down Shift, And now I can trace around this area of mangroves, which I'm not being particularly careful with. But you'll see that it's so easy just to draw around, and it works really well if you have a stylus as well, much easier than using a mouse. Now, you can also see that we have snapping enabled. So what that does is make sure that if you are digitizing things next to each other, that you don't have gaps or overlaps. So if I want to digitize another shape next to this, you can see there's like a magnet that sucks me onto the edge of that polygon. So as I do that, I'm not going to have any gaps or overlaps between my two polygons, which is super important when you're looking at area covered by different things. I can also edit any of these shapes that I create. So I've just used the V key to get back to my selection tool. As I hover over a shape, you'll see that I now get a little circle thingy, and that allows me to move out my shapes, anything that I need to change. If I want to remove that vertex, I'm going to click the Alt key and click on that, and that removes it as well. So when we've got a whole documentation about all the little shortcut keys that you can use and how that makes your life a lot faster as you're going through doing that. So again, I'm going to take you to here's one I created earlier. So the same project, effectively the same data sets in there, but my analyzed project. And I'll be cheeky and saying that I didn't manually digitize all the edges here. We have been working with some AI in the background to automatically detect features and to pull out things like solar panels, houses, trees, etc. So I haven't painstakingly ticked around. Some of this work has been done in a more automated way. So again, you see over on the left-hand side, I've got my different data sets with all the mosaics, the digital surface models and terrain models. I've got all the polygon features with what's in under them as well. And one thing I didn't mention, actually, you can always change the color and transparency of these. So solar panels are blue at the moment. If I decided I wanted them to be a different color, I would just, or outline, I would just change those as well. And you can change the opacity. So you can really make your map the way that you want it to be. So the next thing is, actually, I'm going to stop there quickly and ask if there's any questions around that stage of processing through to analyzing the imagery that you've captured. Paul, is there anything in there that I should have a look at?
There's a few questions, but we'll come back to those later on because they're more specific questions about other parts. Okay. But yeah, there's nothing there at the moment on what you've just covered.
Okay, cool. Thank you. All right, so then the next part that I really want to cover with you, which is something that I find particularly exciting, is how we can all work together to create even better mapping intelligence. And what I've been working towards as we've been creating GeoNadir is everything around collaboration, because I really do believe that we can do great things by ourselves, but we can do better things when we work with our teams. And it was about 6 weeks, no, a little bit longer ago than that, so maybe closer to 3 months ago actually, that we launched the first part of our multiplayer or sharing capability, which allows you just to, when you're inside a project, just copy that URL and share it with a colleague. It's the easiest way to share. You can also go in and have a little bit more control now over how you share your work. And so, for example, in this particular project, I could enter your email in here and decide if you're going to be able to view or comment. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to say that anyone with the link is able to comment on this particular map. And then I'm going to copy this link again. I could copy the URL. And this way I don't have to invite individual emails. But what I'm going to do is now I'm going to pop this one in the chat. And if you're on your computer as opposed to a phone, don't do this on a phone, it's not pretty. If you're on a computer, you can click on that link, and I'll know when you do, because I'll see your little avatars pop in up the top here. And if you're also logged into your GeoNadir account, you will have the ability to make comments on the map that I've built as well. And I will see those comments as they pop up. So I'll give you a moment or two to jump in and have a look and experience what it's like to play with the map that I've created. You can turn layers on or off, change their visibility, and what you do actually won't affect my visibility. So you can do that as much as you like and experience the map as you like to experience it. and it doesn't affect anything until we give people edit capability, which comes later. So is anyone having trouble getting in there? Because I just noticed no one's popped in yet.
We've got lots of people in there, Karen. So I can see there, yeah, there's about 10 of us in there.
Why is it not popped up on my screen? That's interesting. Okay, I'm just going to refresh in that case. I should see your little avatars, at least you'll see each other. Oh, there we go. Nice. Cool, and I can see you all moving around and selecting all sorts of things, and my screen's going to go a little bit chaotic now as everyone explores, but that's really exciting to see you all doing that in real time as well. So where we're going with this is that the idea is that this is something that you can work with your stakeholders, your students, your collaborators, and you can all jump in and see everyone selecting things like crazy at the moment. So I can see what you're all selecting as well, obviously, as you'll see. And so you can get feedback from your stakeholders on any mapping that you're doing, or if you've missed a swimming pool or missed a solar panel or whatever in your analysis, they can drop in and go, hey, you missed something there. You'll also see, for those who are signed in, and I know which ones are signed in because you'll have your name as opposed to anonymous. So anonymous is up the top here. If you've got your name, that'll pop up here, and I can see you moving around. You just click on the add comment button. So click on that and leave me a comment. I can see Joan's done that. Joan says hi. I can say hi back to her. And if I finish with that comment or she's finished with it, either of us can resolve that at any stage as well. So it will disappear. So that's the extent of what I was really keen to share with you all today. I'd really value your feedback if you've got any thoughts or other questions at all, anything at all that you'd like to chat about. Keen to hear it. Paul, did you want to take over the questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So Francesco's got a few questions here as well. But I'm just going to go to one quickly with once you've got your screen up there, Karen, from Simon. He's asking about the AI and how complicated is it where it is at the moment of what you've done there versus maybe where we want to go.
Yeah, you know what, actually, we don't want to make it complicated. So my absolute vision, so beyond what we do with GeoNadir, because I wear other hats as well, my absolute vision is to help people understand more about the Earth by viewing her from above. So that's the overarching vision that I go by. And I mean, I deal with that with the way I teach. I teach students at university, and I also do a lot of community engagement and schools engagement with our SHEMAPS program. And they all fit under the same banner. How can I make life easier for everyone to engage with this type of technology? So to your question of, you know, how much more complex would the AI be? Well, I want you to think about what is some of the simplest AI that we already know. And I think, you know, in the last 12 months, we've seen a lot of generative AI come out where you can ask the computer anything and it will tell you whether it tells you the truth or not, but it'll tell you something. So what are these really, really simple ways that you can ask questions? You don't need to know what tool to use. You don't need to know how to work out the maths or anything. You just ask the question and we can answer that for you. And that's where we're taking this. And so if there's particular questions that you're asking in your ecosystems, we're really keen to hear from you. So what are those most valuable things that you would like to know? Is it how much of the coastline am I going to lose in the next 10 years? What have I lost in the last 5? Or is it how healthy is this particular ecosystem? What is the biodiversity? All of those types of questions. You let us know what you're curious about, and we're really keen to engage in those conversations and look at how we build the tools to answer them for you.
Yeah, great, Karen. Thank you. I mean, and I guess it's just a sort of bit of a practical question, really. So if I had an image like this, so I've tried fiddling around for ages in ArcGIS with the machine automated learning thing, and it's probably a bit beyond me if I'm honest. Are there other ways you could go about it, or is it hopefully through your app one day? Like, that would be fabulous if it could classify. Like, that would be absolutely awesome. But in the meantime, is there a feature that does that, or?
Not simply. Hey, Joan, do you want to speak to this one? because Joan works a lot in the back end on the R&D of our AI type work. Would you like to speak to the complexity of what you see in the AI space, Joan?
Sure. I might miss the end of your question just a little bit. Could you just repeat a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, I guess what I'm seeing here is you're taking that orthomosaic and you're then classifying it effectively with AI. Is that right?
Yeah.
Into those different categories. Is that what you've used it for there or not?
Yeah, I would say definitely, because artificial intelligence is such a broad concept. So like basically anything we use machine to replace us of doing things is artificial intelligence. So in that case, all of the data set that we have online that has been classified into a habitat type, and right now our habitat type is trying to be in line with the IUCN habitat classification. So that is definitely artificial intelligence. So in that case, I think you can say it could be complicated and simple at the same time. It's complicated when people building it up because this data sets comprise at least 30 data sets, if not 50, I cannot remember, like data sets globally, and has different types to incorporate different types of habitat. But once this is being built, then the simple part comes up is that if you upload and we know the coordinates of that data set, then we can classify it into a category based on the previous analysis and assumptions.
Sure.
So in that case, I would say, it's hard to say whether itself is simple or complicated. I think it's really coming from different perspectives.
No, I think it's great. And I mean, I guess, like working in a school where we're constantly now thinking, well, what are the ways we can use AI in a good way and in a positive way? So this is actually a really good example of that. And I'm just keen to sort of leverage off that in our discussions at school, where a lot of it is always, AI is a disaster for schools. And, this is actually where we can use this positively with our kids to, improve their decision making and stuff. So that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, Simon, so I'll just bring up another example. This is something that Joan worked on. So this particular data set is a charity sale somewhere in the US. I'll zoom out so you get a little bit more context. And Joan's been working on looking at identifying some of those individual features. So not just the ecosystems that we generally work with, but what are some of those features that we see? So in this case, there was, I'll actually put this one in the chat if anyone wants to have a play with this one as well. So we had a range of tents here. One of the things that I think Joan was having a little bit of fun with this one, looking at bicycles. So you can see there's these red patches that are entire clumps of bicycles, but then also down, if you're looking at that at different scales, there's individual pink ones being the individual bikes that she was able to extract there as well, using some different libraries to do that. So the possibility really is endless, but there is a lot of time in training things properly to be able to identify those things. But hey, you've got lots of students and it doesn't take much to get them all putting dots on a map to help you train that as well. What other questions have we got, Paul?
Yeah, cool. So we've got one there from Francesco, is around, is the elevation optimization really helping for the orthomosaic mapping? And what about flight patterns for 3D mapping? You want to talk a little bit about 3D mapping? So we've got DSNs, DTMs, but we've also got then 3D models as well, I suppose. It's two different parts to that.
Yeah, cool. So I'll cover off on a couple of things here. So what I might do first of all is just have a look at this project that I shared with you all before, and I'll just turn off the different layers that we've got over on the top so we can just see the imagery. One thing I actually forgot to let you know is also, if when you're digitizing, so say you draw something over here and you realize you don't like that, you can just hit delete and get rid of it, and then you go, oh no, I didn't mean to delete that. You've got to Control Z to undo those things as well. And so those are things that I use all the time. All right, so let's get rid of that one at it. Okay, so first of all, let's talk 3D models. So let's just look at one particular data set so it's not so confusing. One data set here. Now, as I expand this, you'll see that it consists of an orthomosaic, being this red, green, blue map thing. Then I have a digital surface model and a digital terrain model. Now, if I tick on the digital surface model, basically that gives me an idea of the elevation of, I'm going to turn off the ortho because it's sitting underneath. The digital surface model gives me an indication of what's going on in terms of the lumps and the bumps of the land. I have that on full opacity, including the buildings and the trees that are there as well. So we can see individual buildings, you can see the height of the mangroves, for example. Now, the other 3-dimensional model that we create, or 2.5 dimensions, if I want to be really accurate here, is to look at the digital terrain model. So the digital terrain model tries to figure out which bits of the trees and the houses and get rid of those and just look at the land underneath. So those are the 2 models that we have. Now, when we create the orthomosaic, it's actually using those models to correct for angular distortion as well. So that's what helps build what's the ortho, or being true, in the image, rather than just individual photos all stuck together. They actually are manipulated based on what the terrain is doing underneath them as well. How accurate it is varies on the drone that captured it, how good the GPS positioning was, whether it was an RTK drone or just a standard one with its standard GPS, and also if you have any ground control points. So typically, if you want to get really accurate, you'll put out some points on the ground and then measure them in with an additional GPS. And then you'll use that to make sure that you get both the horizontal and the vertical positioning correct with your images that you're building, both the orthomosaic and the DS and DTMs as well. So hopefully that answered your question. Was it, Francesco? If not, please come back at me and I'll have another try. Let me know.
Okay, I'm just conscious of time here. What I might do is put the last poll up, and then we can stick around and answer any other questions that people have got. But yeah, conscious of time. So I'm just going to launch this poll here. There's a couple of questions, and I just want you to rank what's your top problem that you're trying to solve, and then what's your next, your second most important. So let us know.
While you're thinking about that, is the RTK base a must for precise? So there's a question around precise and accurate. So precision is largely controlled by the drone itself, but whether or not you get something that's accurate. So it could be really, really precise and lots of measurements are close to each other, but precise as to whether those measurements themselves are actually true. So if you want accuracy, you need RTK, but it depends on the level that you need it at. So it really depends on the different applications. I would say for most applications, unless you're really getting into hardcore survey, most applications don't necessarily need that. You can also use points in the environment itself that we call natural ground control points. So you may not have the absolute value of it, but if you can track that one point in time, so it might be like the corner of a house or something like that, as long as you line up those corners through time, then that will line up your data sets. But if you need absolute altitude absolute elevation and XY location, then yes, absolutely need RTK and potentially PPK as well. So RTK being real time and PPK being post-processing. So Joan and I have done quite a bit of testing with that sort of work, and Joan also has a blog around the importance of that as well that she can share.
All right, so we've got that quiz or that poll in there. So thank you for those filling it out. That's great. Your feedback really does help us to make sure that we're moving the platform in the direction that our users want. So in saying that, we're absolutely going to send this recording out to you afterwards. If you've got more specific questions, there'll be a link in the email as well to book in a time with me to jump on, and we can go through your specific use case, answer any questions, and really help you out. So encourage you, please take up that opportunity. Karen and I, we both come from the education background, so we really love helping people to get the most out of what you're trying to do and solve your problems. So please take us up on that opportunity. We will stick around if you've got any questions further, anything specific. But Karen, did you have anything else to finish?
I guess also just to your point, Paul, if there are particular topics that you would like to know more on, is there another webinar you would like us to do or a blog you would like us to write? Please let us know what those topics would be. Really happy to oblige in that space as well. So if anything comes to mind today or any other day, go, hey, Karen, you know, I'd really love a webinar on how you bring this into ArcGIS to do something, I don't know. It could be anything at all. Let me know what you're keen to learn about, and we're happy to help out with that.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, Karen. Thanks, everyone. If you want to head off, please feel free. But otherwise, we've got time to stay on here for you to come off mute and ask any questions that you've got. And we'll stick around for a while till we get through the specific questions. But otherwise, have a great rest of your day, and I'll be in your inbox later on today.
Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate you spending your time. I know that there's so much to do, so it's great that you want to spend your lunchtime, evening, or morning to hang out with us and chat.
Hey, Karen, I have a question about 3D modeling underwater. So I get it that we need GPS points when we're flying, but when I'm underwater and I'm doing a 3D model of corals or a particular coral, we're also collecting some GPS points that are not that accurate. However, we do have those, because I notice if I try to make an orthomosaic on GeoNadir, it won't accept the photos, where I can process it in Agisoft Metashape Professional and then get my 3D model. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely.
And or if you will be offering that.
Thanks, Mark.
At a later date.
It's a couple of good questions. Okay, so the first thing is that we only accept data that have been geotagged. So one way you can get around it for underwater stuff is to use while you're mapping underwater, if you have a GPS and a buoy on the surface, you can use the GPS track to tag your photos, and that will kind of trick our system, and theoretically we can then actually do it. At this point, my underwater orthomosaics I also do through Agisoft, just because of that geotagging side of the house. Would we consider doing it? You know, because I work a lot in the marine environment, I do get a lot of people ask me, would we do underwater on the platform as well? We technically can, with some modifications. However, it's not our core at this stage. Having said that, if enough people want it and enough people are willing to pay for that development in terms of, you know, having subscriptions and that sort of thing, then it definitely rises on our priority list. We respond to what most people want, because that's what will keep us alive as a business, to be frank, is that we need people using what we do, finding value in what we do, so that we can continue putting money into developing that. So if enough people want it and enough people would continue to subscribe to that, then we actually have no choice but to do it. Does that answer your question?
It does. And so the reason I brought it up is because as I'm in school, I get Agisoft and ArcGIS for free through the school. But as soon as I leave or graduate, that goes away. So I think we're looking at like $3,000 to $5,000 for each of these programs, and some of them are charged. Like I think ArcGIS is every year, where Agisoft Metashape is not. So yeah, that might be something that I would definitely be interested later on. And also in the field, it's really helpful that I'm able to upload when I'm in the field to you guys. So that's excellent. I love it. And if I lose my my imagery, it's there on the web if I've uploaded it.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for the feedback, Mark. What else can I answer for you all? Francesco, would it be possible to be able to connect with the other members of this chat to share experiences? I guess you can look each other up on LinkedIn is probably the best way to do that. We do actually have a Discord channel workspace, but haven't really promoted it across the community yet. It is something that we're looking at, how we can get people to connect more to do exactly what you're saying, Francesco. And again, if there's something that people want, it does sit there. I haven't pushed it out yet because it's something for us to really monitor and engage with. But if enough people want it, we'll do it. So let us know.
Thank you. Very important.
I see Jerry's just come in and joined us. Jerry, you've been chatting to you while you've obviously been out on site, and we're going to get the recording out to you at the end, my friend. And we need to catch up and see how you've gone since the weekend as well. So yeah. But Jerry or anyone else, have you got any questions sort of on anything drone mapping, right from the data capture side through to the post processing and analysis piece?
Karen, I'm going to ask you another question about RTK. So we generally don't run RTK from the base to the drone. We'll run it PPK. So if there's any disruption in an RTK from the base to the drone, there's going to be an issue, I believe, if there's any lapse in time. And so that's why one of my instructors is recommending that we do PPK and then process it afterwards.
Yeah, with our RTK stuff, we've all done PPK as well. It's a pain. It's without a doubt, it's a hassle, right? I would say that most of my work is off the back of a boat, and I don't have an option to do either, really. So my data are neither accurate nor precise, except within a couple of meters. And and the scale of the entire Great Barrier Reef, I'll take a meter or two. So it all depends on what you're after, really. I have colleagues who absolutely shudder at my lack of care around PPK and RTK.
I could see that in the back of a boat, but if I'm doing coastal erosion or measuring, then we can take a little bit more accuracy.
Yeah, now there was a question about getting extra information about the data sets that are uploaded. So I'll just put this one back up and just quickly show you. So within a data set here, say for example, I've got this one, I can look at the data set details of this, and I'll also show you where else I can get that. So anywhere on the global map or in your own data sets, you can go in, and any of the data sets that you click on, so this one for example, you'll get the data set details in the exact same way that I just clicked on that one there. So the data set details will show you information that you enter for yourself. So I entered this description manually, I entered the tags manually. Everything else has been automatically extracted through that upload process because it's the most important stuff and we don't want to lose that. So who uploaded it, when it was uploaded, number of images, etc. All of that stuff, automatically calculating the area it covers, the GSD pixel size. Also from individual photos, I can just do that by clicking into those as well. Just to note, these photos, when they pop up, they are a lower resolution than what the actual data are. That's just for quick display. If you do need to retrieve the full resolution imagery, you can always download that as the original images under subscription, the Ortho, DSM or DTM there as well. So a couple of different ways depending on what it is that you need. Does that answer that question?
Can you just go to the data set and just show the right click to save as well?
Oh yeah. So say if I like this data set, and I just really want to quickly put that in a report or something, I can just do right click and either copy image or save image. I'll just copy that image just for the sake of it. I am going to pop up a viewer and paste that in there, or I could paste it into like PowerPoint or whatever it is that I might be working in. And there's that image. If I don't want any of the background stuff, I can always change that. So if I don't want a satellite or the map behind it, again, just do the same, copy image. I'll pop it into a PowerPoint this time, hey. It's the PowerPoint presentation. Let's give me next slide. Here we go. Here's that beautiful map that I just created. So a quick and easy way to share stuff into a report, PowerPoint, as you like. Rather than doing a screenshot works as well, but this way can work.
Someone else came off mute before, just after Mark asked his last question. Who was that? Was that you, Sophie? That was you, Sophie. Cool. Awesome. Cameron has just said you could try and use the free AusCores base station data for PPK processing as well. So thanks for that, Cameron.
Yeah, so we do use some of that depending on where you are in the network as well. But in any case, it's still the actual processing of it is just not fun, right? It's time consuming. Alrighty, what else? Anything else that you'd like us? Anything else you'd like us to cover?
All quiet.
Yeah. All right. Sounds like it's all good. Well, with that, I wish you a wonderful afternoon, evening, rest of your day, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember just to let us know if there's anything else that any other education session or whatever else it is that you'd like to hear from us, let us know. And I'm happy to oblige. Thanks so much, everybody.
Jerry, do you want to just stay on here quickly, and I've just got a couple of quick questions for you. Once everyone else leaves, we'll just talk over see how you're going. Hang on, Jerry, you're talking, but I can't hear you. Hang on a second, mate.
It's a reminder to stop recording, Paul.